started to look at whether this research, doing this research made sense, because we were seeing customers coming to us, actively asking for this type of use of our technologies. And when customers ask for that, you know that there's something going on. I think coupled with that, we also saw in the marketplace that there were some fairly frightening statistics being published by industry bodies around Europe. And the VVV in the Netherlands had said that over the last 5 years, insurance fraud has increased by 25%. In my own country, in the UK, policyholders pay an additional £50, which is real money because of fraud. We have a number of customers that are using and adopting our fraud framework technology, but then we're also aware that we sometimes need to listen to customers and hear what they're saying and find out where they are. So really it was allowing us to see this very fast growing area within SaaS and to take a kind of census at one point in time to see exactly how insurers were expressing this. And it's hopefully, as you'll see, has been really interesting in terms of the findings that have come out that have confirmed some of the things we've heard from our customers and actually have opened up some interesting opportunities as well. I mean, first of all, insurance fraud isn't a new topic. I've personally been around, worked in and working for insurance companies for over quarter of a century now. It's not a new topic, but I think that the thing that we're seeing now is that it is very much a board level topic. And why is that? Well, in my experience, insurance companies have kind of cut costs everywhere. They've reduced workforces, they've introduced new processes to streamline things, they've tried to take cost out. And if you believe these kind of industry statistics that suggest somewhere between 10 and 15% of all claims have some element of fraud, there's actually some significant savings that can be made there. So I think the industry is responding. It's recognising both from a shareholder perspective and also from just from a kind of fairness to policyholder perspective, that fraud is not something that can continue to grow. And that's probably the other key point as well, is that we are aware that specifically within many insurers, organised fraud gangs are targeting insurers because they perceive them to be a relatively easy way of making significant returns. And that seems to be something we're seeing across much of the world now, and obviously is a real threat to the long-term profitability of insurers. And we have clients that have used our technology that have allowed them to make some significant savings on the claim spend. So it's kind of all coming together very nicely for SaaS in terms of our technology, but also we have a very firm offering that fits well against this board level requirement. In the survey, we asked a whole range of questions that, really you should need to read the report to get. But we asked two questions that I think were really kind of critical. One was we asked year on year, how much additional fraud has your business saved? And then we also went on to ask what types of solutions outside of people, which are critical and we 100% agree with, are you using? So in terms of the first question where we said, how much additional fraud are you finding saving year on year? We found that only 8% had said that they'd increased their fraud savings by more than 10%. So a relatively small number had actually, kind of is matching this kind of industry trend. So that was an interesting finding. And then we asked this question around, well, what are you using? What types of automated techniques are you using alongside your people? And actually literally just under half, I think 49%, said that they were actually using some form of business analytics, with the remainder, about 51%, actually saying they were using either no solution or just some business rules. So those were kind of interesting and findings in their own. But what got really interesting is when we kind of cross-tabulated those. So because of the sample size, we kind of concatenated some things together, pushed some things together. And it was really interesting. So when we looked at those insurers that were using business analytics, we found that about 57% of them, so almost 6 out of 10, were finding more than 4% additional fraud year on year, which is good. But of those that are not using business analytics, they have no solution, or they're just using rules, that was only 16%. So we were obviously delighted. So 57% of those who are using business analytics were finding more than 4% year on year, But when we looked at those that weren't using analytics, it was only 16%. Big difference. And really that kind of proved that those that had invested in business analytics, alongside using people and their investigators and their teams, were getting much better at detecting increased levels of fraud. So clearly from a SaaS perspective, that's great news because we are the market leader in business analytics. But actually, it does prove that using these types of technologies makes that significant difference and can actually really add to reducing the loss ratio of an insurance company. First of all, there's an old English expression that says the devil is in the detail. Well, actually, in business analytics for fraud, the devil is in the data. So data is really critical here. And when we work with insurers, one of the first things we do is look at the data to see if they've got the necessary data to have this second line of defence for fraud. So that's a critical starting point in most projects. And what was that's key. We already know that many insurers are heavily investing into investigative teams now, and that also is critical, to have dedicated people who can actually look at alerts, look at suspicious cases and make a decision and follow through on the investigation is critical. And what was interesting from a business analytics perspective, we asked the respondents, both by opportunistic fraud and also by organised criminal gangs, where are you with this? And what was really interesting, or what came out very strongly, is that about 36% of respondents actually don't have a solution as yet, and now have a project in play to actually move themselves to that position. But there's still this additional about 4 out of 10, about 40% of insurers who don't have a solution and currently don't have a project, and they are kind of wide open really to abuse from fraudsters. So I think really if insurers are looking at this and considering it, you certainly have to think about the data. You certainly have to think about people. And of course the technology is critical as well. But I think that those three things have to come together to really allow you to give good returns. And we have on both highlighted in the report and on our website, case studies from the Czech Republic, from Italy, from the US, showing now that insurers are getting really good value out of this software, and it's making a real impact to their combined ratio.